Yo, what's up? This your boy Aaron Cole, and you're watching Gospel Music Buzz. Let's get it. Cool.
All right, and we are back with another episode of The Buzz. I'm your host, Sherwyn, with Gospel Music Buzz. And today, y'all, we're joined by award-winning chart topper, Aaron Cole. He got the streets buzzing. We got him here with us, y'all, and we're going to get into this new album, man. Aaron, what up, man?
What's up, man? How you feeling? Thanks for having me on.
Of course, of course. Listen, I'm good, man. I had an opportunity to listen to the album. I'm not gonna give away too much, man, but there's certain things that are on there that we just have to discuss, man. So,
Good. Let's do it. Let's do it.
so I would say let's kind of just start with what everyone have access to, right? They have access to the trailer.
Mhm.
When that trailer dropped and you were looking at that, there was a lot of stuff that was kind of subtle. There were certain things in there. There was some inference, the table turn, I'm number one. There's a lot of stuff there. So just
Yeah,
break that down for us.
yeah. So yeah, with the trailer, sorry I changed. I feel like it was just like important for me to tackle the concept of the what I'm saying, sorry I changed concept.
Hmm.
And me changing, and what I'm saying, I have a lot of people that's been following me since I was a teenager. Have some
Yeah.
people that came soon, so I just kind of wanted to address everything. So that's when you get like I did a series a couple years ago where I was talking about me and how I grew up a picky eater. So I wanted
Hmm.
to address that. People always talk to me about that at shows. I addressed that. I addressed the tables turn thing. You know how people, if you say anything a little hip hop in the Christian world, they
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you're like, oh, he's so full of himself. I'm like, okay, let's address that for sure. You know what I'm saying? Dressing the people that love the pop Aaron Cole and don't like anything else. We was dressing the whole thing. So I just feel like it was so
Mm.
important, like to just in the trailer just kind of address like what's been going on. And I feel like it's super important for people to just get the concept of sorry I changed. And so I was excited. I'm actually excited that you peeped it too. And you know what I'm
Yeah, yeah.
saying? That's what's up. Yeah.
For sure, man. I'm like, oh, this is brilliant, man. I love it. Then you just sort of just come in and decide, then everyone try to flip it like, oh, that was busted. I'm like, first of all,
Yeah.
don't say that.
Nah,
Just
for sure. For sure. That's how people are. They like, oh, whatever. They be saying whatever online. They see you in person and they,
yeah,
nah,
yeah,
I love everything. So I'm like, okay, keep that same energy.
yeah. Facts. So that was dope right there. Now, kind of going through because you mentioned a few different things because I think when someone is used to seeing you one way because this album is huge for you, right? Sorry I changed. It's the first one with your deal with RCA. So
Yeah.
just even going into that, a lot of times there may be some assumptions like, hey, are we going to see some changes? The label may, put certain things on him to say, hey, you can do this, or here's what we want you to do. Do you
Yeah.
feel like anything started to change your creative process and the direction of the music going into this? Or you felt like, hey, I had full freedom. I did what I needed to get done. Like, what was your mindset going into this?
Yeah, first of all, I'll say I definitely had full freedom when it came to RCA and Providence Sony. Like they were just kind of like here to enhance what they've been like seeing me doing, and I super appreciate that as a team. But I think more so it's changed just to kind of give the like background of sorry I changed. Like
Yeah.
we talked about, it's just been a lot of change in my life on the, you know what I'm saying, not surface, but the surface level. It's like
Hmm.
the new deal. I was with, you know what I'm saying, Go T Records since I was 15 years old. I just ended
Yeah.
that last year. Um this is my first album married, first album
Mm.
homeowner, like, you know what I'm saying, the whole nine. So I feel like that was super important with the whole title. And also feel like God was just showing me that real life changes you and going through real life situations like losing loved ones, losing friendships, the troubles of the world, you know what I'm saying? Like all those things. It's different making music when
Yeah.
you're a teenager and you know what I'm saying, doing certain things than being a grown man and making music, you know what I'm saying? And so I feel like that's kind of like the whole concept too. But it's also the gospel. It's like once you
Hmm.
become to know God and once you know what I'm saying, start walking out this life it's a lot of things that you can't do no more. It's a lot of friends, you know what I'm saying, that you feel like you can't kick it with no more because they kind of doing the same stuff y'all was doing in high
Yeah,
school. It's
yeah.
just like, I'm sorry, but I had to change. There's some remorse there because, you know what I'm saying, you letting people that you love go, you letting things of yourself that you probably not good for you, but you're letting that go. So it's
Hmm.
like, it's a lot of that stuff. So to answer your question about how it was different making the process, I think that was kind of like the whole thing. It's just like going through all of this change. I felt like it was super important for me to just talk about in the music this change and relating to people in a different way. You know what I'm saying? It's a different relating to people and just giving people hope. But
Yeah.
talking about reality sometimes is, I feel like, something that connects with everyone. You know what I'm saying? Whether you
Hmm.
in the church or not. I feel like I was talking to a friend. We were talking about how we think people get misconstrued what faith is. Because they
Hmm.
be like, I feel like people think that faith is the disregarding of reality when it's
Hmm.
not. It's belief in a greater reality that God is going to do what He said He's going to do, and that He's always on the throne. And so I feel like that was super important for me in this album to just talk about the reality of the situations, talk about the real life things that I was going through, but also, which is my job, is to give people hope. So I did both things. So if there was anything that changed, it was probably that, just kind of really tackling the reality of situations that people go through and that I'm going through. So.
Man, that's a perfect synopsis of it because that was the next question I was going to ask about, the backstory behind just sorry or change, because
Yeah.
I think you definitely went with that, but just kind of taking it back slightly because you set the tone really early on.
Mhm.
You come out of the block there, with 2 cents, you set the tone really on, and then something you mentioned, you said, you give your life to God, you double down, right? So
Yeah.
I think a lot of times, there is, opportunities, throughout our walk with Christ there. Yes, we may have been a believer for too long, but there may be still certain things that we were carrying during that process. And I feel like a lot of times, we really don't talk about those things. We kind of make it look like, hey, once I'm a believer, everything is all great and I'm just going to keep going.
Ah,
But there's
yeah.
a lot of points in that album where you came back to that. And you were
Yeah.
like, hey, I battled, with this demons, I battled with like there's a level of transparency that we
Yeah.
received throughout that process. So just even from giving your life to Christ, can you take us back to that moment, when you actually gave your life to Christ many years ago?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I first, so I kind of talk about. I don't have like a a crazy story of what I was doing. I grew up a church kid, really. Like
Mm-hmm.
my granddad was a pastor. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
My whole family was, you know what I'm saying, the worship team. So like I grew up in that. But I say when I turned 12, I got to middle school. I was always doing music and I was always doing Christian music. I started rapping when I was
Mm.
3. I started singing when I was 7. But when I got to middle school at like 12, I feel like that's kind of where things start happening as far as like peer pressure and the whole nine. And so people was always calling me like the good kid because I didn't really
Yeah.
want to do all
Yeah.
that stuff, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And so I remember talking to my pops about it. He was just like, man, you gotta realize like you're chosen, like you're different. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Like I had great parents in my life, both my dad and
Mhm.
my mom. And so from there, man, I just feel like I gave my life to God in my room. And it was just
Mm.
something that I really kind of wanted to do of, you know what I'm saying, go fully, you know what I'm saying, building my relationship with God. So from there, I just started learning more stuff, like reading the Bible every day, doing the
Mm.
with my dad and my mom every day. It was just like they kind of raised me, you know what I'm saying, like the scripture and the way I should go. And so, yeah, that's when I kind of gave my life to God. But I say, as like I was talking about earlier, as
Yeah.
I just kind of like grew and became into a man, it's just like a lot of things that is real life situations start hitting you where
Mhm.
it's like, okay, you start having questions about things. You start having questions about, okay, what does this really mean and stuff like that. I saw a popular artist was just talking about like, oh, I have my problems with God just because when I asked him to do something, like he didn't come through. And I feel like that's how some people think of God. It's like people
Yeah.
think God is as like a genie or something like that. And it's like,
Mhm.
nah, like in the Bible, it talks about he said that we were going to face many hardships, but
Mhm.
he never promised that we wouldn't go through things, but he did promise that he would be with
Make
us in it.
yes.
So
Make a way. Yeah.
for me, knowing that you know what I'm saying, knowing that God is always going to be with me through whatever I'm going through, that gives me the faith of, you know what I'm saying, every single day. Just like my single proof, it's just like, man, like why do we as Christians doubt God all the time? Like when we see mayhem, when we see things that we're going through, when he's came through every single time. It's like
Yes.
if you think about all the things that you've been through in your life, it's like you're standing here today for a reason because you got through those things. And going
Facts.
through is a testament of faith. It's like if you're going through it, you're going through it. That means you're gonna get to the other side. So saying you're going through something, that's a testament of faith that you don't even know. So yeah.
Nah, nah, listen, I feel like you're looking at my notes, man, because I was just about to touch on proof and you just skipped ahead there, man.
My fault,
So,
my fault. Nah, I just
nah, nah, it's all
I'm just
good.
fun with you.
I love it, man.
Yeah, it's just
Oh,
fun.
no, it's and then also too, right? Because again, kind of looking back at your story, right? You've achieved remarkable success at a young age, right? You got Dove Awards, a lot of chart topping hits. There's a lot of great things. A lot of folks don't even know what it's it to be on a label for so long and being able to do all that and just the transitioning. But during all of that, like, how do you stay grounded amidst all of that, in the music industry, and what kind of keep you inspired just to keep producing and releasing at such a high level? Because going back and listening to a lot of your stuff and kind of coming forward, like, you kept that level up all the time and just kept improving and improving on it. And I'm sure that's not easy in and of itself. So what sort of keeps you grounded and keeps you inspired to create?
First of all, I appreciate that. I think for me, it's the people that I keep around me. It's like it's my family, it's the friends that I have around me. People are always challenging me, like all the time. Like I'm sending songs to people, I'm sending songs to my friends, I'm sending songs to my family. And there's sometimes where I send a song to my friend, he'd be like, this sound like something that you would have did when you was like 15, 14. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's just like it's always constantly like challenging me. It's like that statement that they say is true. Like you'll go as far as the people that's around you. And I feel like
Yeah.
that's something that I kind of figured out early is just like, man, if I have yes men around me, if I have people
Mm,
that something's good all the time, it's just like, nah, like that's the way of not growing. You know what I mean? Which it
that's
goes
right.
back to the concept. It's just like, no, some friends that you're gonna have to let go because they're not elevating. They're not elevating and they're not growing in this life. And you know what I'm saying? I feel like it's important for us as Christians, as followers of God to be elevating all the time because he's
Hmm.
changing us all the time to mold us into the person that he's called us to be and to mold us to be more like him. You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
like we're supposed to be changing every day because we're not perfect. But God never changes because he's, you know what I'm saying, a perfect being. And so yeah, just to answer your question, I feel like that's how I just keep elevating and keep
Keep
staying
elevating.
inspired. Just keeping people around me. So I'm also always inspired because I've always since the beginning just talked about my real life, just talking about
Mm,
things that I'm going through and
yeah.
stuff like that. I feel like I'm doing it in a new way as I've
Hmm.
just got grown and stuff like that. But I definitely feel like that's what keeps me inspired because we all going through something. And
Of
so
course. Of
I
course.
can continue to just talk about that and relate to people in different ways. I feel like I'm gonna stay inspired for a long time. So
And and I think, and again, kind of read, listening to that, right? And coming back to that realization, and even, a lot of the lessons that you mentioned started going through it. You also, touched on a reality, right? Because when you're leveling up and you're improving, right? There's things around you and situations and folks around you that makes it hard because you said in Refuge, right? A lot of wins, but it's getting hard to celebrate. How am I supposed to be happy if they keep on shooting, right? So just
yeah.
sort of just touching that a little bit because I feel like that's a very like odd place to be in because all these great things are happening, but now you're questioning like how am I supposed to really celebrate in the midst of all of that? So what was that feeling like just being there?
Yeah, yeah. Just man, it's like that's a reality sometimes of situations of like, man, there's so many things that sometimes go right in your life, but
Hmm.
then like you have so many things that's, you know what I'm saying, going wrong. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and so for me, like that's happened a bunch of times. Like even when I won the double award and stuff like that, like my my family situations was going on.
Yeah.
For those of y'all that don't know, like I kind of talk about it and touch on it in the album. But my parents, when I moved to Nashville and got as an adult, my parents originally got a divorce.
Mm.
I kind of wasn't like I wasn't letting it affect me as much because I was just,
Hmm.
like I said, focusing on the good things, focusing
Yeah.
on the things I had going on. And they got back together. Then they, you know what I'm saying, then they broke up again. So it was just kind of like this up and down battle. And then last year, actually working on this album, my dad kind of hit like a low place. to the point where he was really like considering suicidal thoughts and
Wow.
I'm saying the whole nine. I dropped everything. I went back to Virginia, had a family meeting and stuff like that. And I actually had a just getting back to the proof. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna start on
Yeah.
proof a little bit more because we
Hmm.
talked about it. But also talking about that reality of just like, man, like these things was going on where I felt like I was about to lose my dad, you know what I'm saying? And I was, you know what I'm saying, dealing with the fact that my parents weren't together, dealing with the fact that my little sister was still back home and she was
Yeah.
dealing with this stuff, you know what I'm saying? And
Mm.
while I'm working on this album, while I just signed a deal, you know what I'm saying? While all these good things are going on in my life, people hit me up excited about the
Mm.
album. I'm working with my idols, Kirk Franklin, whole nine. It's like, no, I'm dealing with this reality of a situation
Wow. Yeah.
where, you know what I'm saying, one quick decision, my dad who's been there since the beginning wouldn't have been in my life. It's like
Mm.
that's the reality of life.
Yeah.
Then just getting back to the proof thing, like I was with a friend. I had that family meeting and we got back in the car. We went back to Nashville. He's like, man, it's been a good day. And I was like, what you mean? Like, it's been a crazy day. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And he was like, no, you gotta look at it a different way. He was just like, we got here safely, we get home safely. You know what I'm saying? Your dad didn't do that. Like your family is good at working things out. Like you just gotta look at it in a different way. And it just kind of had me, you know what I'm saying, think about what I was talking about in proof of just
Yeah.
like, man, why am I worrying? Because God has got me through this, you know what I'm saying?
Mm.
Time and time again, you know what I mean? And so that's going back to what you said about refuge. It's just like, man, that's the reality of situations sometimes. Sometimes things are going good in your life and you got things going on, but we have to have faith, you know what I'm saying, as Christians that
Wow.
God can get us through it, you know what I'm saying? So, like I said, I just wanted to keep the reality and keep it real with people. Like, nah, y'all see this thing on the outside of like, yeah, I got all these great things going on, but not in the we going through real life every single day. So yeah,
Man, and I appreciate that, man. Definitely praying that things work the direction it needs to go
yeah.
in. But I
Case in
appreciate you.
point, case in point, case in point. My dad and my mom, you know what I'm saying, working it out again. You know what I'm saying. My dad
Wow.
rededicated his life back to God. Like
Mm.
he's a different man that he is now. So it's just like it's going back to proof, man. Like why am I worrying when God got it under control? It's like there's certain things that I just can't control, and He controls. So yeah,
Nah, no, and I was saying because I really appreciate you sharing that because even like with myself, like growing up, like my mom came to this country first before us, so like she was over here trying to work things for us to get here. My dad was back home, the two of them kind of like went their own ways, sort of, and then years later when we met up back with her, he came back over here. And even though like during that period, there was always that, because again, with fathers and their sons, there's always that back and forth type, tight tug and
yeah,
pull. But seeing
yeah,
them back together after all those years and like back in that moment, like hearing you talk about it started just like, yeah, why was I even worrying and stressing a whole bunch back then when things just
yeah,
really worked itself back out? So, I respect that. And I think that's what you get from the music, right? Is that realness, that right there that you weren't shying away from the opportunity to really share, to really connect, to really because there's a bunch of folks that's out there that's dealing with just real stuff. So again, I appreciate you for that. And I want to touch briefly on I know we're coming up a little bit on time, but I want to touch just, there's a lot of collaborations that is in this project. You did the collab with Doe, did the collab with Kirk. There's a lot of different collabs, and just even the way how you flip some of these songs, man. I mean, it's just like between you and your team,
yeah,
bro. Yeah, y'all are literally out here just doing some things, man. So the song
yeah,
with Kirk, just
yeah.
tell us a little bit about that. Like, how was that? Working
Yeah.
with him, choosing which song you wanted to go with, and just taking that approach.
Yeah. So, one thing that people don't know, I don't know if I even talked about it in any interview, but I had that song, something about the name, probably since 2019, 2020.
Oh wow.
Yeah, like I had that this concept idea. The guy that I work with, his real name's Cole, but his producer name's Saint X. We've
Mm-hmm.
been working together since I was super young. So he's been like my right hand man when coming to music, and we just did that one day, and I feel like at the time it was kind of like, man, it was just maybe not the right time, but we kind of revisited it with this album. We was just like, man, this
Mm.
kind of still goes. And so when I came over to RCA, I was just like, man, what is like, could Kurt get on this kind of vibe? And
Mm,
we made it happen. Like he came to the studio in Nashville. And bro, it was just like it was a crazy moment. I met Kirk a few times and stuff like that, and we definitely chopped it up, knew each other. But just having him a part of something that I was a part of, man, it was a
mm,
blessing. Like I don't take anything lightly. Like I'm super humble. Like coming from Bristol, Virginia, like a small town in
yeah,
Virginia, you probably don't even know where that's at. You know what I'm saying?
I
Like
don't.
it's like, man, I take nothing for granted because it's like me doing something with a gospel legend like that, man, like bigger than me, it tells people back home that, man, whatever y'all want to do is possible. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Because these people grew up, they see me go to high school with them, they see me, you know what I'm saying, in the
yeah.
city. Anytime I go back and visit my family, like they see me in the city. So it's just like, man, like anytime I do something like this, I just think about the bigger reality of like, man, like
Mm.
this is telling somebody, this is telling a kid that's going to the same high school that I'm going to is like, man, I could do it. I could do whatever I wanted to do. You know what I'm saying? And so yeah, man, it was a blessing, and I feel like that's one of the ones that's it's gonna go for sure. I feel like people gonna rock with that one.
For sure. Y'all literally came out of came out of the blocks and not just standing on business. Because I mean,
And
that's
it
what you
on
said,
business, you know
right?
what I'm saying? Yeah, he went crazy
Yeah,
with
yeah, for real, for real. Oh my goodness, man. There's so many different directions we could go on, but I know I'm looking at the time. But listen, man, I appreciate you so much, man. Just, hopping on here, man. I'm gonna have you give the folks a message that they need to get this album that's coming out 4/26. Sorry, I changed.
yeah,
But before we do that, last question here now, before we do that, because again, your message have impacted beyond the Christian sphere, right? You've been, featured within ESPN, various other places your music has been featured. So I think a lot of times, people try to put, you know, artists in a box. He's a Christian rapper versus he's a rapper. There's this, there's all these different things. But I
yeah,
feel like, just based on your music itself, just having that ability to just get out there and just penetrate beyond that. Like, what is that feeling like that once you realize, like, hey, this is not just a Christian thing, but there's others out there that can still be uplifted beyond, beyond that itself.
yeah. And I think that's super important. I think that's kind of the reason why we're here. Like it's the reason that
Mhm.
I'm saying God gives us the tools that we do is just to reach people for Him. And so I'll tell a quick story real quick.
Yeah.
My song "I Love It." I was a part of a camp out here in Nashville with a bunch of different artists. Like I was probably the only Christian artist in the camp. And in the playback room, they started playing the different songs and stuff like that. And in the middle of the playback, the leader of the camp was just like, "Man, I gotta stop." He's like, "I heard this song called 'I Love It,' and I feel like it's one of the greatest
Mhm.
songs that dropped this year." And they just started playing "I Love It" in the camp, like it was already out and stuff like that. And people was just coming up to me like, "Man, this is you? Like, oh, you a Christian artist? Like, man, you make a real one want to go back to church." And I was just like, "Man, like." That's you know what I'm saying. That's kind of what shedding your light is. You know what I'm saying. Showing
Yeah.
the light, just going into these different spaces and being able to make music that's you know what I'm saying on that level, man, it's just like people seeing like the God in me and how
Yeah.
it can impact their life. And so just going back to your question, it's like, man, I feel like it's super important. Like people, it's another line that I said in the album. I don't know exactly how I said it because so many lyrics, but I was just talking about how you gonna light up the world when you're scared of the dark. You know,
Mm,
like
mhm.
how are we going to say that we're the light of the world when we're scared to go into these places? You know what I'm saying? You always getting mad at people when they go into these places. It's like, no, that's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Be the light of the world. Like walk into rooms and be the light. You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, I think that's super important part of my mission and my goal too is just, you know what I'm saying, being a light in the dark. So
Listen, and just before you go, even the flip on, that Carl Thomas giant have your
yeah,
way. When
yeah.
that jumped on, I was like, oh, wait a minute, you gotta put me back in my 2000 bag. So
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
listen, man, a lot of hits, yo. New album coming out 4/26. Sorry I changed. Aaron Cole. You guys, there's something there for you. You're gonna put it on, and you don't even have to look for anything to skip through. You just put it on, you let it rock. You let it go, Aaron. I appreciate you coming on with us, man. Enjoy the rest of your week. We're going to be here. We're rooting for you, man. Continue to be a light and salute, man.
My man, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Of course, take it easy. Thank you.